Folks, we are joined on the line by Kassy Akiva. She specializes in multimedia and investigative reporting, covering a wide variety of topics, including culture, politics, foreign affairs, and now she has a brand new DW Plus documentary titled Mexico's Door. She traveled to the U.S.-Mexico border in February as the Texas government ramped up its own enforcement of immigration law to halt the massive immigration crisis. And she traveled by boat, helicopter, police vehicle to see the crisis firsthand. Here is what the trailer looks like.
You're inside and the migrants are banging on your door.
The big groups, I just let them bang and go because you don't dare step outside.
We actually just encountered a raft that is staged and ready to bring people across.
So we're gonna be looking for a newer white Chevy. Hey guys, Highway Patrol. We encountered 2 suspects that were involved in a human smuggling operation, and the driver had an active warrant for murder out of Louisiana.
We're gonna see crossings of any illegal immigrants that are trying to get through Shelby Park.
¿De dónde eres?
Mexico.
Mexico? I couldn't imagine bringing a 3-year-old.
Especially coming across this river, it's very dangerous. And not only that, you're paying a criminal, a smuggler in Mexico to get across too.
I've found bodies out in the middle of the desert, people caught up in fences. This is ugly.
Our federal government is trying to stop the state from protecting us.
What was he saying about his wife?
He's saying that his wife was pregnant, that her water broke. And that's why...
Here?
Yes, here, on this side.
Wow.
You can go check that out at DailyWire Plus right now. Kassy Akiva joins us online. Kassy, so tell us about how this documentary came about. What were some of the worst things you saw in the making of this documentary?
Sure. So we went to the border when the Republican governors came to join Greg Abbott and advocate for helping him against the federal government and also committing their own National Guard troops there. And while we were there, we couldn't not do a documentary. There's just so much to see. I mean, you just walk across this park that is a golf course. Shelby Park is a golf course. And you just see migrants sitting behind barbed wire, taking off their clothes to climb over it. Just we're talking like hundreds of thousands of tons of clothes we saw from the air. So, I mean, the craziest things we saw were definitely the rancher Wayne King, who talked about how he lost hundreds of thousands of dollars by migrants cutting his fence open and letting these exotic species that he, has on his property go loose in the middle of Texas. We're talking zebras and wildebeest just getting loose in Texas. And then also just seeing it from air, seeing how many people have actually crossed. And then at one point, we were actually with the Florida Highway Patrol, who has their own boats there with Texas. And while we were with them, we encountered migrants who were trying to swim across. And we also found a raft that had just been staged for them to get in and come across. And my camera guy actually pointed it out that this raft is there. And we didn't mean to, but we kind of foiled their plot, where the Mexican authorities came and popped the raft and got rid of it. But this is very common at the border, that people are just swimming across, taking rafts across. It's honestly it's madness over there.
So we've been told by the Democratic administration and by the Kamala Harris campaign, choose never the borders are. And not only that, things are amazing at the border. They've brought down, they say, the border crossings dramatically. And one of the things that I've been hearing from people who I know in Border Patrol is that they're effectively cutting artificial deals with the Mexican government at this point to artificially lower the amount of border crossing up until the election. Have you heard anything like that?
Well, I know that a lot of people who are actually in Border Patrol wish they could be doing more. They wish that they could actually be doing what Texas is so successfully doing, which is arresting these people and charging them with trespassing when it comes to ranches that are on the border and in the state properties and parks. So I know Border Patrol agents are so frustrated by this, and it's so sad because they're getting a bad rep because the Biden administration is basically doing nothing and implementing different policies that Trump had that you got rid of for 4 years, and now you're putting them back in there to act like you're actually doing something is really, really a shame.
And one of the things that came out yesterday is there was a report that they'd had a big seizure of fentanyl, and it was at a border crossing. And so supposedly this is like a huge win. The reality, of course, is that down at the border, we also went down to the border earlier this year. And the reality is that because of the Biden administration's border policies, which say that you have to provide asylum first, that's legitimately the number one priority. So you have a group of migrants who come across the border, and now all of Border Patrol is told to go and congregate around those migrants and immediately process them and then get them released basically into the country within 72 hours. That leaves the entire border wide open. So this part of the border, obviously, you had state officials who were attempting to do their jobs. What were they saying about their interfacing with the federal government?
Yeah, so they're very frustrated, right? When I was there, it was right when they kicked the Border Patrol from actually being able to access Shelby Park. They were in there. There were videos and pictures of like tens of thousands of migrants in these little camps and this ditch in Shelby Park. And once the stateys came in, they said, this is not going to happen anymore. But I think it's important to mention there are two different types of migrants crossing the border. There are the ones who swim across and they wait to be picked up and get asylum and get all the freebies and the handouts once they come across. And those are the ones we see the pictures of. And like you said, as they are being facilitated and ferried around by Border Patrol, there's another type of migrant. And those are the migrants who are crossing illegally and not wanting to be seen. They want to be undetected. And these people are usually criminals or they're Mexican nationals, because Mexican nationals are usually deported pretty quickly. And what happens with them, that's when the Texas state troopers, they line the highway and they wait for them to get into a car and come across. So I actually went on a high-speed chase with, it wasn't really a chase, but we were in a high-speed patrol car with this Jacqueline Gooding state trooper, and we pulled over people. And it was really fascinating to see how they target the cars for pulling over. If they see a car and the back is kind of sagging just a little bit, they usually know that there are people in the trunk or fentanyl in the trunk. So we were with her for 2 days, waiting for cars that would drive by us and look a little sagged down, and we would pull them over. And she actually told us that a few months before, she actually arrested 2 criminals, American citizens, who had murders for warrant out of Louisiana, and she arrested them and they were armed, and it was a whole high-speed pursuit. So people in America who are criminals are profiting off of this. They're becoming these highly paid Uber drivers where they can get up to $5,000 per migrant that they actually ferry across the border and get into our cities in Texas.
Well, that's Kassy Akiva. Check out her brand new documentary over at DailyWire Plus, Mexico's Door. It's out right now. If you want to understand the failures of our border czar and Democratic presidential nominee, this is a great place to start. Again, Mexico's Door, available at DailyWire Plus. Kassy, thanks so much for the time.
Thanks for having me, Ben.
Are you tired of the lies and the twists of the mainstream media talking points? Yeah, me too. Join me in my newest series, Fact, where I dismantle and bring truth to this tiring mainstream agenda.